It started with a sound I wasn't supposed to hear, water cutting off, followed by the slow squeak of a door hinge. I was in the hallway, halfway to leaving, when steam drifted into the light like smoke. I should have walked away, but I didn't. Evan had asked me to pick up his camera from his place since he'd gone out for the night. "Mom's home," he'd said. "Just grab it from my room and lock up. Easy. Quick. No reason to linger." But when I stepped inside the quiet house, it didn't feel empty, just waiting. The air was thick, faintly sweet, like perfume mixing with humidity. Somewhere upstairs, the shower hissed. I tried to move fast, found the camera bag on his desk, checked the memory card, and then I heard the water stop. A pause, a rustle, then footsteps, slow ones. When I looked up, the bathroom door across the hall opened. Steam spilled out like fog, and in the frame of white light stood Heather, Evan's mom, wrapped in a towel that clung to her shoulders, damp hair falling loose around her face. For a second, neither of us moved. Her eyes narrowed slightly, not angry, more like she was deciding something. Then she tilted her head and said, almost amused, "Well, don't just stand there." I froze, muttering something that didn't sound like words. She stepped aside, reaching for her robe on the hook inside. I should have looked away. I even told myself to, but my eyes betrayed me. Her reflection appeared in the fogged mirror, half hidden, half revealed. She caught it that second glance and smiled faintly. "You were going to leave," she said softly, "or explain why you're still standing in my hallway?" I didn't know you were." I began, voice low, useless. Clearly, her tone carried both amusement and warning. "Maybe next time. Knock before you wander upstairs." The towel shifted as she tied the robe around her waist. She moved past me, her shoulder brushing my arm. The air still smelled like warm skin and soap. My chest was tight. I could hear my pulse more than my thoughts. She stopped by the railing and turned her head, voice quieter now. "You won't mention this to Evan. I don't want him thinking you saw anything you shouldn't." The rule was clear, unspoken, yet absolute. Whatever had just happened, it stayed here, between the steam, the mirror, and us. I nodded too fast. "Of course. I didn't." "Good," she said, but didn't move right away. "Then we understand each other." As I exhaled, headlights swept through the window downstairs. A car pulling up to the driveway. My heart jumped. Heather turned sharply, tightening her robe. "Wait," she whispered. "He wasn't supposed to be home yet." "He?" I asked. "My husband." The sound of a car door slammed outside. The lights went out across the hall as Heather flicked the switch. The house dropped into half-darkness. "Stay here," she murmured, already moving toward the stairs. I could hear her voice drift faintly, casual, calm, pretending nothing happened. Through the gap in the banister, I saw her husband step inside, shaking rain off his jacket. Heather smiled at him as if everything was perfectly ordinary. When she looked up toward me, her expression didn't match her tone. It wasn't fear. It was warning. A silent command. "Don't move. Don't speak. Don't be seen." I stayed still, holding my breath until I heard the bathroom door creak again behind me. Steam still hung in the air. My reflection stared back from the fogged glass, ghost-like, guilty. Then her voice came from downstairs, calm and casual. "Evan's friend? You should stay for a bit. It's raining too hard to drive." My stomach twisted. She'd just given me a reason not to leave, and an excuse she could control. I turned toward the mirror again, the water still dripping from the shower head, the faint scent of her shampoo filling the space. Outside, thunder rolled. I knew I should have gone, but I didn't. The rain hadn't stopped. It drummed against the windows in slow, steady rhythm, a sound that filled the quiet house. From downstairs, faint voices carried. Heather talking to her husband, calm, casual. I couldn't hear every word, but she sounded like nothing unusual had happened, like she hadn't just caught me staring at her through a veil of steam. When her husband finally went upstairs, his footsteps fading down the hall to the bedroom at the end, I took that as my chance to leave. But when I stepped toward the stairs, Heather's voice came softly from the kitchen. "You'll catch a cold if you go out in this." She was standing by the counter in her robe, hair damp, holding a mug of tea. The low light made her skin glow faintly. She gestured toward the table. "Sit. I'll find you a towel." I hesitated but obeyed. The kitchen smelled like rain and citrus detergent. Drops of water slid down the window beside me. When she came back, she handed me a clean towel and nodded toward the chair again. "I told him you're staying until it slows down," she said quietly. "He won't ask questions." The rule had already changed. We weren't just keeping a secret now, we were building one. She poured me tea, watching the steam rise between us. "Still nervous?" she asked, half smiling. I laughed softly. "A little." "Good. Means you understand boundaries." But the way she said it didn't sound like a warning. More like an invitation she hadn't yet made. The house creaked as if listening. The hum of the refrigerator was suddenly too loud. Then, from upstairs, came the faint sound of a phone ringing. Her husband's. Heather turned her head slightly, eyes on the ceiling. "He always forgets to silence it," she murmured. "It'll stop soon." The moment stretched. Her hand brushed against a necklace lying on the counter. A thin silver chain, glinting faintly under the light. She picked it up, twisted it between her fingers, and then, without looking at me, placed it in my palm. "Hold that for me." It felt warm, like it had been resting against her skin. A small thing, but suddenly it wasn't just an object. It was a symbol, something she'd shared deliberately. Her husband's voice echoed faintly from upstairs. "Heather!" She froze, then leaned closer, whispering, "Quiet." I heard his footsteps in the hallway above, then a door closing. Heather exhaled and straightened. "See? Almost got caught." She smiled, but her hands trembled slightly. "You can keep it. For now." The tea between us had gone cold. She moved to pour it out, and for a moment the thin fabric of her robe caught the light, tracing the line of her shoulder and waist. I turned away too slowly. She noticed. "You really don't know where to look, do you?" she said. "I'm trying," I managed. "That's what makes it worse," she whispered. She stepped closer, placing her hand briefly on my wrist, her thumb brushing the chain still in my hand. Every sound in the room felt amplified, her breath, the ticking clock, the rain. The distance between us disappeared, one heartbeat at a time. Then footsteps again, heavy, coming down the hall above. Heather stepped back instantly, her voice calm and even. "Take the towel and go dry off in the bathroom," she said, louder now. "There's a dryer vent near the mirror." Her husband's voice floated down the stairs. "Everything okay?" "Yes," she called back, smiling faintly. "Just helping him with something." I nodded, understanding what she meant. I picked up the towel, the chain still hidden in my palm, and slipped quietly down the hall toward the bathroom. Before I closed the door, she looked at me once more. The same half smile, unreadable, dangerous. "I'll check if you dried off properly later," she whispered, low enough that only I could hear. The light flickered as thunder rolled. In the mirror's reflection, I saw her turn away, calm, composed, untouchable, before disappearing into the dark hallway. And I knew that later wasn't just a word. It was a promise. The next morning felt unreal, like everything that had happened the night before had been some kind of fever dream born from rain, steam, and silence. But the silver chain in my pocket said otherwise. I told myself I'd return it, make things normal again. Evan had texted that morning. Mom says thanks for grabbing the camera. You coming by later? I typed maybe but didn't send it. By evening, I was standing on their porch again. The rain had stopped, but the air still smelled wet. That heavy, quiet after-storm calm. Through the window, I saw Heather alone in the kitchen, the glow of her phone lighting her face. Her husband's car was gone. When she opened the door, she looked surprised, but only for a heartbeat. You forgot something? I held up the chain. You left this with me. She studied it in my hand, then me. Come in. Inside, the house was softer somehow. The hum of the refrigerator, the faint sound of a clock upstairs. She led me to the hallway, then stopped near the bathroom door, the same place as before. You could have just left it in the mailbox, she said, though her voice lacked conviction. I shrugged. Didn't feel right. Keeping secrets never does. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The chain dangled between us, catching the light. Then take it, I said quietly, holding it out. She hesitated, then stepped closer, her fingers brushing mine as she took it. The touch lasted longer than it needed to. That's when a sound shattered the stillness. The front door unlocking. Voices outside. Evan's laughter, closer than it should have been. Heather's eyes widened. She grabbed my wrist and pulled me toward the bathroom. Go, she whispered. Stay quiet. The door clicked shut just as Evan's voice filled the hall. Mom? You home? Heather answered from the doorway, calm as ever. In here, doing laundry. The footsteps approached, stopped right outside. Did someone drop by? Thought I saw a shadow. I froze. She looked directly at me. Finger to her lips, before answering, just the delivery guy. He left. The silence that followed was unbearable. I could hear every breath. Finally, Evan walked away. The front door slammed again. Heather closed her eyes, exhaling. You see why this is impossible? I nodded, still breathless. But you came back anyway, she added softly. That's the problem. She turned to the mirror, the same fog-stained surface as before. With a fingertip, she traced the faint outline left from the steam, then met my reflection. What do you see when you look at me? She asked. I didn't answer. My reflection did, the truth showing in the way I couldn't look away. Heather smiled faintly. That's what I thought. She lifted the chain, holding it in front of the mirror, the silver glint splitting into two reflections, one resting on her collarbone, the other suspended in glass. This, she said, was supposed to remind you to forget, but I think it's doing the opposite. Without thinking, I reached forward, not to touch her, but to steady the chain. Her fingers met mine again, and for a moment it wasn't about the necklace anymore. Her breath slowed. You shouldn't be here, she whispered. I know. Then why are you? I swallowed hard. Because you didn't lock the door this time. The corner of her mouth curved. A quiet, dangerous smile. So you noticed. We stood like that, inches apart, reflections almost touching. And then the sound of a car engine outside froze us both. Her husband again. She stepped back instantly, the warmth gone, voice returning to calm control. You need to go. Through the side door. As I moved toward it, she caught my hand for just a second and slipped something into my palm. A folded note, small enough to hide. Don't open it here, she said. Read it when you're alone. I nodded, heart pounding, and slipped out into the cool night. When I reached my car, I unfolded the note under the dim dashboard light. Only 3 words, written in neat, deliberate handwriting. Tomorrow. Same place. Sleep didn't come that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the faint handwriting on that note. Tomorrow. Same place. By morning, I had already made up my mind. Evan called before I could think too much about it. "Hey man, you left in a hurry yesterday. You free later? We're heading out for a game." I almost said yes. Instead, I heard myself say, "Can't. Got work." It was a small lie, but it built a wall I couldn't climb back over. By the time I drove toward their neighborhood, the sky was already turning gray again. It felt like the weather had learned our rhythm: calm, then storm. When I parked down the street, I turned off my phone completely, like cutting a wire before it could expose me. Her house looked still, curtains drawn. No car in the driveway except hers. I waited a full minute before walking up and knocking once. The door opened halfway. Heather stood there in a loose sweater, hair tied back, face calm but tired. "You actually came," she said softly. "You asked me to." She sighed, stepping aside. "Then come in before someone sees." The house felt different this time, quieter, heavier. No background music, no warmth. She led me to the living room. The same silver chain hung around her neck again. When she noticed me looking at it, she smiled faintly. "I put it back on," she said. "It didn't feel right leaving it off." I sat down on the couch, and for a while we didn't speak. Then she took a deep breath. "You should probably know something," she said finally. "My husband and we've been living separate lives for months. He sleeps in the guest room. We just haven't told anyone. Not even Evan." It wasn't the confession I expected. She looked down at her hands. "You think I'm reckless. Maybe I am. But sometimes silence feels louder than mistakes." I didn't know what to say. Every word felt too small for the moment. So I said the only truth I had. "I don't think you're reckless." "Then what do you think?" "I think you're lonely." She blinked once. Slow, like the word hit deeper than she wanted. "And you?" she asked quietly. "Why risk coming here? You could lose a friend over this." "I already lied to him," I said. "That's a kind of loss too." She exhaled, the tension in her shoulders softening. "You shouldn't have to lie for me." "Then tell me to leave," I said. Heather looked at me for a long second, then shook her head. "I can't." Thunder rolled again in the distance, faint but coming closer. It always seemed to find us. She stood, walking toward the window. Outside, the street was empty. Then her voice dropped low. "I think someone saw you yesterday." My chest tightened. "Who?" "Mrs. Klein, the neighbor across the street. She asked if I had company while my husband was gone." "What did you say?" "That you came by to fix the Wi-Fi." We both laughed nervously, but it didn't reach our eyes. The laughter died when a car door slammed outside. Loud. Unexpected. Heather froze. I stepped toward the hallway. Through the curtain, I saw a figure by the driveway. It was her husband. "He's home early," she whispered. My pulse spiked. "What do we do?" "Go through the back. Now." I hesitated. "Heather, please," she cut in. "Don't make this worse." I slipped toward the kitchen, the back door just a few steps away. Then her hand caught my wrist. Quick, desperate. She looked up at me, eyes glassy, voice breaking. "I don't want this to end like a mistake." Before I could answer, she kissed me. Soft, brief, trembling, not hunger, but confession. Then she pulled back, tears barely held. "Go," she said again. "He can't see you here." I left through the back, into the rain that had just begun to fall again. My shirt stuck to my skin, my heart still racing with the echo of her voice. From behind the fence, I saw him walk in, shaking his umbrella. Heather's tone from inside was calm, practiced, like nothing had happened. I waited until the lights inside dimmed. Then I checked my phone again. Dozens of missed calls. 2 from Evan. 1 from an unknown number. And then a message from her. It was only a location pin, near the edge of town, beside a quiet cafe by the river. No words. Just a time tomorrow. 7 p.m. I stared at it for a long minute, rain sliding down the screen. Every rational thought said to walk away. Instead, I typed 3 words back. I'll be there. The cafe by the river was mostly empty. Dim lights, soft jazz through old speakers, the scent of baked pastries long since cooled. It was the kind of place meant for quiet, not decisions. I got there early. Too early. I sat by the window, facing the entrance, watching the sky dim from blue to gray. The river shimmered in the background like it knew how fragile this moment was. My phone buzzed 3 times. I didn't check it. She walked in 5 minutes late. Hair still damp from the rain, umbrella folded, coat buttoned tight. She looked around once, then spotted me. Her expression didn't say hello. Said, "So you came." She sat across from me slowly, carefully. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she reached into her coat and placed something on the table. The chain. "I've been thinking about what I'm doing," she said. "What this is." I nodded. "Me too. And I still came." She gave a small, sad smile. "That's not a reason." "No," I said. "It's a choice." She looked out the window, at the street, the rain, the dim light filtering through the glass. Then back at me. "I can't ask you to live in a shadow. You didn't ask." I walked there myself. Silence. The waiter came. We both shook our heads. No drinks. No distractions. Finally, she leaned forward. "I haven't told Evan. I don't know how. And I haven't left my husband yet, either." I swallowed. "Are you going to?" "I don't know," she whispered. "But I want to stop pretending I don't feel anything." Her eyes found mine again, not guarded this time. Not coy, just tired. Real. "I think I've spent too many years being invisible in my own house." I reached across the table, fingers brushing hers. "Then let someone see you." She didn't flinch, didn't pull away. That was the choice. Not a confession, not a declaration. Just the act of not letting go. And for now, it was enough. 1 week later, we didn't meet in the house again. That door stayed closed. The line wasn't crossed, it was moved. Instead, we began meeting at the cafe. Tuesday evenings. Always the same table. Always the same silver chain on the table between us. Never worn now, just placed gently like a shared secret neither of us had to explain. Sometimes we talked. Sometimes we didn't. But we kept showing up. Not because it was easy, but because not showing up had started to hurt more. Evan still called. I still lied. But the lies were quieter now, less like betrayal and more like delay. Once, Heather said, "This might break us in the end." I answered, "Then let's not end yet." That evening, as I walked her back to her car, she paused before unlocking it. Rain fell in a fine mist around us, the air cool and close. She stepped forward, placed the chain in my palm, and folded my fingers around it. "For when I forget who I am," she said, "you remember." The door closed behind her. The engine started. I stood there for a long time, the silver warm in my hand. And through the fogged window, I saw her smile. A quiet, unfinished thing. Just before she disappeared into the dark. And the light above the cafe door flickered once. And went out.